You may have played poker, but playing poker in Texas is a different animal. This is the Texas Poker Podcast with Tyler and Clint.
Hello, this is the Texas Poker Podcast. I'm Tyler. This is Clint.
What's up, y'all?
You guys are here for episode 1. Kind of exciting. But before we get into it, Clint, do you kind of want to introduce the podcast before we maybe get into introducing ourselves?
Yeah, this is an idea we've had for a while, and it basically came about because poker has just grown exponentially in Texas. So there's a ton of podcasts about poker in general, but there's nothing about just in Texas and the surrounding areas, maybe Louisiana, Oklahoma. I really want to go into like some of the tournaments. We've just been getting an insane amount. I mean, we've gotten $1 million guarantees. We're having some of the biggest tournaments in the world right now. So I just really, it kind of inform people. If, like you said, if you're not on Facebook all the time, Poker Atlas, you can kind of miss these because some of the times you only get a week's notice or so.
It kind of seems like most of the time you're only getting a week's notice, which I'm not a big fan of because it makes it hard to schedule with work and things. I'm sure for everyone else it struggles too, at least for day ones whenever I guess they have a lot of day ones, multi-flights. But it would be nice to have a little bit more notice on some of these tournaments, especially when they're so massive.
Yeah, it seems like from what I'm seeing is if it's like around $200,000 guarantee or lower, it seems like you're barely getting a week or two notice. Some of the ones that are like $800,000, $1 million guarantees, or the series, but you're getting a ton of gigantic value tournaments popping up all the time with barely any. So I think if you can do a weekly podcast kind of informing people about what's going on, I think it'd be very valuable to people.
Absolutely. But I guess before we get into this week's podcast or this week's tournaments, I guess we probably should both introduce ourselves just so people kind of know who they're listening to somewhat. I guess I can go first. I recently started playing poker maybe 2 or 3 years ago more seriously. But before I had been going to Louisiana, punting my money away.
That's how we all start at some point.
Right. But now I mainly play at 52 Socials, basically, where I play at mainly. And just kind of all around Houston. But I guess other than that, I pretty much just stay within the Houston area. But I know you come quite a distance, so I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, so I have a much a longer background history. I've been playing poker in around Houston from 10 to 15 years. So it's been super interesting to go from the underground days where you needed to kind of know somebody to get into one of the rooms that were just not advertised or anything like that, the gigantic rake structures, and just not near as nice as what it is today. So I was playing, but I would say I was probably more recreational until probably 3 years ago when I started taking it more seriously as a second job of some sort.
I guess we both kind of started taking it seriously kind of relatively near the same time because when we first met or we're talking poker, that's the time I was going to Louisiana punting my money away, and you were wondering, what are you doing? What are you talking about? You went all in because you thought they had a feeling that no one had a pair.
Yeah, we luckily you caught me probably like a year or two after I had really started to, and even as a beginner, I still read a ton of books. So I was like I was never a bad player. I just wasn't the type of player that tracked and knew what my win rate was and everything. And you caught me like probably just a year or two after that. And then sure enough, once you started to kind of study poker and everything, both became winning players, and it kind of just took off after that.
All right, I guess that's basically who you're listening to on the first episode, because the chances of you knowing us before this are pretty slim.
Very true. I mean, you probably recognize me at a poker table, but you probably don't know my name. But I will also say I am in the College Station area, so it kind of gives me and I have family in kind of the lower Clear Lake, Houston area. So I'm playing at a wide range of rooms, everywhere from the Lodge in Round Rock to Mint and Seabrook and Spades and Seabrook. So it kind of, I don't really have a home base. I play just a little bit of everywhere, which kind of helps to kind of just be able to compare different places.
Absolutely. But I guess, speaking of tournaments, I guess we better get into it this week.
Yeah, it's so we got the Champions tournament, $1 million guarantee coming up, and that is really the big news that's going on in the I know the Houston poker community, and really the Texas poker community in general. Before we get into that, I also want to go into a couple things. The podcast won't be just about tournaments. We're also going to be covering kind of the different cash game promotions that are going in the Houston area, or in really San Antonio, Dallas, or anything like that, because some of these promotions are just becoming huge.
Especially now that people are what seems like regularly giving away vehicles and free time and matching time and just letting you in for free, basically.
Oh yeah, I mean, later in the podcast we got a vehicle giveaway. We got one where you just play free all weekend. So it just these cash games promotions really reduce the rake and just make it cheaper for the players. And used like way back when in computers there was something where it was so massively competitive. It was called a race to the bottom, because it was so just. Companies were losing money just trying to get people in the door to buy their computers. It's kind of happening in poker, where just more and more people are playing, but the poker rooms are just having to compete and give better and better deals. And I don't know how long it lasts, but we definitely want the listeners to be able to take advantage of it while it's happening.
Right, and just any big promos, or just kind of any way you can kind of reduce the rake or increase your edge. We kind of want to just let people know about, and you might try a new room that you haven't tried before, just because they're giving away such a great promo that you wouldn't normally go to.
Right. So yeah, just any of the cash game, any news, whether it be political, because we still have it's still kind of in a gray area. Live streamed events, vloggers coming to town, or anything like that. Even if it's a really great guaranteed free game, I mean, just anything that involves the poker community as a whole, we are going to strive to cover. And we will have some very light strategy. We'll go into some hand reviews, but I would say some kind of entertaining as well.
More discussions than strategy discussions. Probably more just talking about what we would do. Not saying what we're doing is the right thing or the best thing, but just maybe just some interesting situations that maybe some people could they could even give us their opinion on what they would do. But
yeah, so just some thoughts on different things that might be going on there, different hands and sessions we played. But that's kind of the idea of the podcast, is basically just to cover everything in Texas and surrounding areas, and going up on that. But the biggest thing going on right now in the Texas and surrounding areas is this Champions $1 million guarantee tournament, by far.
I mean, it seems like it's attracting everyone. It seems absolutely, it just seems gigantic. And I feel like I guess you don't have to do it. But with such a big prize pool, it's very tempting.
Yeah, I will say this. I was not going to do it. I'm more of a cash game player than a tournament player, although I have recently had some pretty good success in tournaments. But I tell you what, the amount of attention that this is attracting is just amazing. Recently, they came out with that they were going to be covered by Poker Go. Which is the poker service that you have to be streaming.
Basically, if you want to watch poker, it's just like the Netflix of poker.
Right, exactly. So it's going to be streamed on Poker Go, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. They're going to have the Poker Go commentators covering it. There's Matt Berkey's going to be there, Darren Elias, Greg Raymer, Chris Moneymaker. I'll tell you what, just the opportunity to be on a stage this big doesn't happen every day. To play with some of these players that are going to be in the tournament doesn't happen. Tell you what, it's tempting even for me.
I think you're even more of a tournament player than I am. I feel like I mainly focus on cash. Well, I don't feel that way. I know I mainly focus on cash. And I'm already kind of decided I'm definitely going to take a shot in this tournament. I just, like you said, more of an experience and just to kind of see what playing at a tournament of such a high caliber would be like.
Yeah, it's like I say, like you say, it's definitely an experience. Like you, at this point, you're actually paying. You're getting a little bit just for the experience as well.
Have you ever played at a tournament that like has commentator, like not has comment, is covered fully instead of just the final table?
No. The only time I've ever done is there was the stack at Paramount was live stream, which I found that to be pretty cool, but nothing even comparable to this.
I wonder how they're gonna do it. Like, are they just gonna have a main table, or do you think they'll be able to look at multiple tables but only see the whole cards of one or two tables?
I think they're going to focus on one or two tables that most likely will have like Matt Berkey or something like that, have one of those big names in it, and the earliest in kind of the early stages, and then they'll kind of go from there.
Well, that'll be real exciting. Definitely looking forward to that. And is that about a $1,300 buy-in?
It's a $1,300 buy-in, but I am going to give the listeners a couple ways that they can get in without the $1,300 buy-in. So the first way you can is they are running satellites almost daily from 328 to 51. They're usually going to be around $240 to $300 for a buy-in, and usually one out of about 6.5 people get in. So if you do want to take a shot at this, but you just cannot front that $1,300, those satellites are a pretty good way to give it a shot at it.
Oh, I'm definitely, if you have no way else of getting in, and the satellite's your only option, they're definitely giving you plenty of options. How many satellites did you say? You said something like 30?
There's something like that. It's like I say, it's
Mid-30s.
all through those dates, and then from 328 to 51, and it's just they're not daily, but they're pretty close.
So to say, it kind of seems daily based on the schedule.
Yeah, and like I say, the buy-in varied a little bit, but it's going to be a great way to take a shot without really taking a shot. One I found super interesting. I wish I was in Houston more. So apparently, if you play 200 hours of cash game from March 22nd to April 25th, you get a buy into the tournament.
That's really cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I saw that, and that was just really, really insane. Because, okay, so it's about $10 an hour there to play.
It's 12.
It's $12 an hour?
They stopped doing any sort of time bulk deals. It's just a flat 12 now.
Oh, okay. I did not realize that. Well, that makes this a little bit more doable. So 12 times, yeah, that's going to be, but if you're going to play cash game anyways that's a great benefit to get a buy into a $1,300 tournament.
Oh, it definitely seems like they're always kind of giving back to the players, because that's phenomenal. And they also have plenty of different promotions always going on in the room. But as far as and free entries into tournaments, that's a great way for people who, I mean, I'm sure there are some people who are going to just get it naturally just because they're always there.
Oh yeah, it's so yeah. I mean, it's one of my favorite places to play cash in Houston. So I think that's just a really awesome way to give back to the players. Now this one was kind of vague. It says they're having two tickets raffled each week from March 22nd to April 25th. I don't know how you enter into that raffle, but you can call champions or ask them when you're there. And I do know they are raffling two tickets each week. So I'm gonna have to contact them and see, because I definitely would love to be in that raffle. If I can get a $1,300 buy-in, that's definitely a raffle I want to be in.
Right, absolutely. And then the third way is just the different satellites.
No, the third way is they're having these tournaments every, I believe, daily. And if you are in the top 5 on their tournament leaderboard, you also get a ticket.
That's the daily deep stack, I believe.
I believe so.
Right.
So now if you in the daily deep stacks, pretty good value. I mean, it's pretty deep stack for what you do. I think it's like around two. I don't know the exact buy-in. I think it's around 240 or something.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So it's if you like tournaments and you're not much of a cash game player, that's a good way. And then here's the thing: is if you're in the top 5 seats, you're making a pretty good profit already just being on. I mean, just
Right.
winning there. Now 1,300 on top of that's pretty amazing.
And also those deep stack tournaments, you're also going to get a lot of play for your money. I sure would hate to, $200 into a turbo tournament that you're going to be kind of blinded out, not really get to have the full getting to play for your money. So it's really nice that they're at least doing the daily deep stacks.
Oh yeah, that's a really a cool way to do it. I will say, I was wondering how many people they would get for this. A $1,300 buy-in is pretty steep. Too steep for the average player. They are creating so many different ways to get into this tournament. It's gonna be huge.
Do you think they're going to go over the $1 million guarantee?
Yes, I don't see how they don't.
Well, I remember last tournament series that came, the Lone Star Series, there was just a ton of people from Louisiana, Oklahoma. People flew in just to do this tournament series. Whenever you were in the parking lot, there was just tons of different license plates because I went and played cash during the last Lone Star Series, and it was just jam-packed.
Oh yeah, and well, I mean that's the other thing is like the $1 million guarantee is attracting by far the most attention, but all the tournaments look really good. I mean, there's the $150,000 guarantee for $400 if you want to be a part of this, but don't want to shell out $1,300. Great value there, and you're getting so many different tournaments with so many big guarantees. So it's like people will come for. I mean, you have the Ultimate Monster. It's going to be a 25,000 guarantee. The Bounty's 30,000. So granted, the $1 million guarantee is getting the most attention, probably, and then the 150,000 guarantee. But there's a ton of these tournaments, and then there's even like tournaments where you don't see very often. You have a combined No Limit Hold'em PLO Big O tournament, a tag team tournament. There's just so many different types.
Right. It's really cool to see them throwing in some different games.
I thought that was really cool too. It's really kind of adds more to the deepness of the series feel, I guess.
Right, because I don't really even play. Not really. I don't even play any other mixed games, but it's kind of cool just to see big mixed game tournaments for the people who do play them, and like you said, just the tournament feel, and that's just gonna be that many more players. Because if you're a mixed game, if you enjoy mixed games and you see this massive tournament, it's probably gonna be worth the trip out.
Without it, yeah, absolutely. There's just a ton of different events they're going to be running. And this Lone Star series, they ran it at Prime before here, and it got nothing but good reviews. I didn't hear anyone say anything bad about it, so I expect it just to go over just as good.
And we kind of brushed over it though, but there are going to be quite a few big names or advertising coming to the tournament, correct?
Oh yeah. I mean, the main ones that I saw were Darren Elias, Matt Berkey, Greg Raymer, and Chris Moneymaker, obviously. So, can you imagine playing on the I mean, look, I know I'm nowhere near that level, but God, can you imagine trying to match wits with Matt Berkey at your table?
Right. Could you imagine if you're one of the people who got put on the live stream at your? For a lot of people, this will be their first big tournament. It'd be kind of crazy if you ended up on the main table with someone like Matt Berkey, Chris Moneymaker.
It definitely adds to the draw of doing the table. So okay, so you front your $1,300. Out of those names, who do you want to be on your table? I mean, probably none of them because
I was gonna say.
I mean that they're taking up the place of what maybe a fish. I don't know, but let's say one of them's going to be there. Who do you want to play with?
I think it'd be really cool to talk to Chris Moneymaker or just see him at the table, just seeing him on all the World Series of Poker reruns and kind of whenever he was a part of the poker boom too.
Yeah.
That would be really cool, kind of more surreal to be at the same table as him.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I think mine goes I've always kind of been a Greg Raymer fan. Any like of his interviews that he's done, he comes off as the most fun to have at the table. Like the one I want to be in a hand against, I know this. Like I say, this guy's heads and tails better than me. But Matt Berkey, because he's just so damn good, right. And I want to match wits with him. But I feel like Greg Raymer would be like the fun one to have.
Yes, I don't think Berkey would be the fun one to have. I think he'd be the guy trying to. Well, I'm sure they're all gonna be trying to beat you up.
Yeah, they all have a good shot at it. So there's a reason my name's not advertised on that list. Clint will be at the championship. Come play with him.
Say it's Splash Pot.
Yeah, we'll be splashing around. So yeah, it's something I really can't wait. Poker News is going to be covering this event as well. They are going to have daily live reporting and updates online, so you can kind of keep up with who is doing what on this tournament. So that will be a really cool feature. Like I say, there's a chance I might do this, and if not, I'm going to be keeping up with it. It's going to be neat to see like an award this big in Texas poker. I mean, we're probably estimating that first place is at least like maybe 300,000, 250.
I bet you it goes over the million guarantee.
If it goes over the million guarantee, then we're probably well above 300. I mean, yeah. And 300 is a pretty flat structure. That's assuming that first place, is only like 30 to 40%. So, but God almighty, can you imagine? That's a huge amount.
It's very exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is by far the big news. But one other that caught my eye when I was going over tournaments this week, 52 Social is doing a tournament this week that is going for what's today's date? Let me make sure.
Today is the 15th, April 15th.
April 15th?
Yes.
Oh, it's actually going on today and yesterday.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. I was there playing cash yesterday, and the tournament was going on.
Oh, God almighty. So
that's why you got to keep up with the podcast.
Better listen to on the day. Do not let a day go by.
We're delivering news a day late. No.
Yeah. It's a $200,000 guarantee. You pay $310. You pay a total buy-in of $375. $310 to the tournament, $65 to the admin fee. The big thing is like 52 Social does with a lot of their tournaments, you get $100 in free time when you do it.
Which I absolutely love, because someone like, me and you are both going to easily be able to get that full $100 in time. So it's basically just a free $100.
Right. And this was advertised on both 52 Social South and 52 Social. So I believe they're running it at both. I assume the final day, which I believe is actually going to be on a Saturday.
I thought that's what I saw online, but you can do the day one at either location, and then the final day will be at 52 Social South for sure.
Okay. It's is it 52 Social South this final day?
Yes, I believe that's what I read. So.
Okay, so but $100 in free time when you buy into this is just gigantic. It's basically just $100 off the tournament.
Has anyone else adopted this strategy for tournament buy-ins, giving time to players? I haven't seen anything. Have you?
No, I haven't seen any. I'm not sure anybody can afford this. I don't know. 52 Social keeps giving just insane incentives.
Kind of crushing a lot of competition. Not all, but a lot of competition with the high prize pool, the buy-in, the structure, the free time. All that plays a huge role into tournament players trying to lower their increase their edge.
Yeah, well, 52 Social's become the place to play in Houston. Nobody, it's not even up for debate. Both cash games, their promotions are insane. They haven't gotten as big on tournaments, but it seems like they launch a lot of competing tournaments as far as series go.
It definitely feels like whenever they don't release many tournaments, but when they do, it's big crushing tournaments. Normally competing with other rooms, and they're normally bigger guarantees and lower buy-ins. That's kind of how 52 Social kind of rolls with it. But
Yeah, it's a good way to roll with it, I guess. I mean, if you're gonna do this, that's really gonna be hard. It makes it hard to pass up. I will say that.
absolutely, and overall, just great for the Texas poker players.
Yeah, like I said, Texas poker players being able to take advantage of all the insane amount of competition is just become huge. So, one thing I wanted, so that kind of brings the coverage, the tournament coverage, to an end for this week. There were a couple of cash game deals that I wanted to also bring, and we start again with 52 Social South. For every hour you play, you get a chance into the raffle to win a truck.
Just giving vehicles away regularly, it seems like.
You want to reduce your rake, win a vehicle.
Right?
You want to be a winning player. If you win a truck, it's going to be hard to be a losing player. April 24th is the giveaway. You have to be there. So
I wonder what it's going to be like on April, because we both have played at the new 52 Social South. We both thought it was an awesome room, but it's definitely not the biggest room you've seen. It's definitely not as big as 52 Social Main.
no, it's I was kind of wondering, what are the chances they draw this? Somebody just loses the chance to buy it. Because, I mean, I've played a couple hours, but probably not enough of a chance to go to make sure I'm there on Saturday. There's people who are going to have probably tickets there who are doing something else. I mean, there just might be an event where if somebody's played 2 or 3 hours, they might be somewhere else doing something deal. I don't know. This would be, if you're playing there regularly, or even if you played 1 or 2 hours and you can be there, that's something hard to pass up.
Yeah, I mean, sure would be a shame if they called Clint out and you're at work.
Yeah, because this is going to be happening, let me see, is it going to be in the middle of Champions Big Series?
I believe so. So
that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be a tough thing to. Everybody's gonna have to make some tough decisions coming up.
right, I guess that's basically kind of the whole theme of all these upcoming tournaments.
Okay, at 52 Social South, also April 20th through March 20th through April 20th. So you only have a couple more days, but it is $5 an hour all day for poker.
We always talk about increasing your edge. Finding the lowest rate game is probably the easiest way to do so.
Oh yeah, it takes if you can take the rate to 0, it makes an average player, now they're actually not losing, whereas usually, they're losing at least the cost of the rake. So that's a really awesome. Another cash game promotion that I was really blown away by, Mint, this weekend. From Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is free poker. And they also give free food and free drinks and adult beverages.
That's what it is. They do serve adult beverages there?
Yeah. So they were one of the last ones at $15 an hour. But it was kind of worth it because you actually had like meal food, like salads. Nothing like crazy, but egg rolls, sandwiches, and stuff. And it's all free. Along with the alcohol was free too. So now that they have reduced their time fee,
what did they reduce it to?
It was 15. I believe it's gone. Lately, it's been promoted at 8.
Wow, that is crazy.
So I don't know how they're able to do this. I don't know how long it will last. But with 52 Social South coming, Spades opening up, I feel like they probably had to do something. So, again, this is just 3 poker rooms competing and making it really good for the players.
Right, and Mint is stepping up. They had a really cool cash game promotion last week. But this episode 1, so you probably didn't hear about it from us. You definitely didn't hear about it from us.
Yeah.
But they were giving away $1,000 twice, correct? 2 days twice? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was twice a day. I believe it was at 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. It was like that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe.
Right.
and maybe I think Sunday, but it was $1,000 just a drawing.
Right. I guess we've already missed it, but they're definitely stepping up to compete for sure. They're not waiting to the last minute until they've already lost everyone. It's a constant competition going on now.
Which is good to see, because, I mean, you hate to see some of these decent rooms, and they just are a little too late to compete with some of the newer rooms.
Right. We call it pulling a prime, right?
Yeah, it's we could definitely say that right there. It's a prime definitely is kind of the
dollar late.
The
dollar
example,
short, yeah.
the example that all the rooms are showing that to go ahead and compete earlier rather than later.
Right, but I feel like most people have learned from that, kind of overall from what happened with Prime. But
yeah, it's so that's kind of the what our promotions are for this deal. This was very much centered around Houston this week, basically because that is where just the biggest tournaments and promos I could find going on. We are going to be covering a lot of San Antonio and Austin and Dallas in future episodes. So, but this was just a really Houston-heavy episode. So, but we're going to go into a couple cash game hands that you played recently, right?
yes, but I guess before we go to the cash game hand, I had a few things I was going to ask you about. One being, so I just recently went to Louisiana, went to the Golden Nugget to play poker. Right, I showed up at around 2. They had one table going, and they had 4 people on the list. And then within about 30 minutes, they had 8 people on the list. Didn't open up the second table. I waited about 2.5 hours when I finally got the text. Well, I was next on the list, so I came down to kind of come check it out. It's been 2.5 hours. And they finally opened up the second table at around, it might have been 6:30. Maybe I was there at 2:30. It was a very long time. There was 10 people on the list waiting, and they just didn't open up the second table. So such a big contrast coming from Texas poker, where we have the players, the table's getting opened up.
That is so weird. I just wonder, did they not have the dealers, or I just don't know why you would ever keep 10 people on the list. I understand if it's like 6 maybe, because you don't want to filter. You just don't want to start a game just have to break it. But when you have 10 people on the list, I cannot see a reasoning where you would not open up another table.
I just thought that was kind of interesting. And another interesting thing, if you haven't been to the Golden Nugget in a while, the poker room closes at 1:15 a.m.
No way.
Yes.
1:15 in the morning, they're closing the poker room.
Yes. I was there, last time I was there, it closed at 1:15 as well. And I had no idea. And then they were saying, I forgot if they said like last hand or last 20 minutes. I was like, last 20 minutes to what? They're like, we're closing. And I was like, what do you mean you're closing? We had a full table. You can't be closing. They said, yes, it's the rules. We close at 1:15. I think it's supposed to be 1, but they call last hand at 1:15 or something.
Hey, Tillman Fertitta, we need to get you on the podcast and ask what is going on. I mean, did Texas poker blow up and you just decide not to compete whatsoever? Because, don't get me wrong, I love that we have nicer rooms. Every now and then, I like to go to the casino and get just a feel. But stuff like that make me never go to Louisiana.
Right. And they had some pretty cool promotions going on. I asked some people about it, one of the dealers and some of the players, and they said that the board reset every day, and the board was deuces through aces, so 2, 3, 4, 5. Quad deuces, or any quads, paid $500, and any of them not hit carries over. So there was deuces and 4s were at $1,000, and whatever was left, aces, it was like aces, kings, queens, jacks, and then most of the numbers had been hit. Were off the board, but they didn't reset it the next day, so it must be every week or something. A lot of the players, I guess, didn't know when exactly it carried over, but kind of a cool promotion though.
Yeah, without a doubt. Anything where you can get extra I'm always concerned about how they're doing it. Are they taking extra money out of the pot to pay for it, or is it just coming out naturally? That's one of the things I like about Texas Poker is with the time fee, they just can never take it out of the pot.
Right,
So,
guaranteed.
But I do love the whole quads promotion. I do think that's really cool.
And the bad beat was up to about 58,000.
Ooh, that's really good.
And the room is pretty nice if you haven't been to the new Golden Nugget room.
Ooh, see, me and you, we're gonna disagree here.
You don't like it?
So, if you're a cash game grinder, you're probably not playing a ton of hands. You're playing like 15 to 20%. I am one of the few. I like an open concept room. Like I like the Caesar's Palace, the MGM type rooms where I can, when I am not getting hands, I can look around, kind of people watch, and do stuff like that. I don't like that it's just in a room all by itself.
See, I like versus the old room. I like the new room because I felt like the old room you were kind of everyone was on top of each other and it was hard to get around back when the room was packed.
I guess I never played when it was that packed. I just know I like the open concept a lot more. I just like to look out and be able to see different things. I don't know, I don't mind it per se, but if I had it to do over, I enjoy a poker room that's kind of more in the middle of everything, and I am definitely in the minority here.
Well, it kind of one of their issues is there's construction going on right in front of the door. So you can't walk right from the casino into the poker room. You have to kind of take the roundabout, walk kind of around like where the shopping is. It's only an extra 2 minutes, but it makes it harder, I think, for people who don't know it's there to find it.
Yeah, I think this is because people who are going to play poker are gonna find it somehow, some way. Although that's kind of annoying that you have to go the roundabout way, but I mean, I like Golden Nugget. I enjoy it. And I don't mind the new room, but I don't know. I got my real set preferences on my poker rooms, but I do like the quads promotion and all of that. I think that's a really cool idea. Although I tell you what, that whole 1:15 closing time would just you want to talk about piss me off. If I drive 3 hours to play poker and you're closing it at 1:15 is not even a late time. I mean, if you're gonna do this, maybe 4 in the morning, but 1:15 at night. What in God's name? I guess I don't play slots. What am I gonna do?
You're gonna go to bed. That's what you're gonna do.
That is the worst thing I have ever heard of. So
you're gonna play that $15 craps minimum bet.
Come on, 6 and 8.
I was gonna say, come on, your bankroll.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it was really interesting though to go from Texas poker, playing in the poker rooms, to playing in a casino when you haven't been to the casino in so long. Just kind of how the game played differently, and just I thought that was so interesting that they closed at 1:15. But I guess you can kind of decide where you want to play.
It seems like they're not putting a lot of effort into it.
I'm not sure how Kashada's doing. I think a lot of the players are at Kashada.
After everything that you said, I would definitely be going to. I don't know anything. I used to play at Kashada a lot before Texas Poker got big. I would definitely be trying to go to Kashada and see what it's like, because they're just between the time and them not opening up another table. It seems like poker is just almost an afterthought at that point.
Well, and here's another thing. Once I went back to the room and woke up, I was like, well, maybe I can go play for an hour in the morning before I head out back to Houston. It opened up at 11:30. The room opens up is what the pit boss, or not pit boss, the floor manager said that night. I showed up at noon. 10 people already on the list, and the table was full. 8. Sorry, it was 8. And I asked them, I said, are you guys going to open up another table? They said, no, not till about maybe 2:30.
I mean, I guess they're just not scheduling the dealers. I don't know what the reasoning would ever be there. I'll tell you what, with this service, I'm real interested in next year when A La Capri reopens, remodeled with Caesars, I mean, a lot of people are going to want to go and play there just to rack up the Caesars points as well. I don't think Golden Nugget can get by with doing business that way if they're gonna compete.
Right. I mean, it's just such a lost opportunity for them as well. Whenever you have 8, 10 people on the list, everyone just standing around waiting.
I don't know. If you're still competing, like I say, I am a player who I like to play. I like to kind of use poker and travel like simultaneously. So I'll go to Austin. I'll go to San Antonio. I like to go to Lake Charles and play every now and then. Granted, Texas poker is definitely going to be where I play the most, but I kind of like a good road trip and just kind of see something different. But with everything you said, going to be hard for me to make that justification to go down there.
Right. Something else before we kind of move on. Something I kind of had to deal with last week. When you're trying to get a certain amount of hours in, I guess you kind of schedule it based on whatever you want, whatever works with your schedule and your personal goals. So I'd kind of already hit my weekly hours I wanted to play. But I kept playing. Have you ever kind of felt like once you hit those hours, maybe taking a break, kind of feeling burnt out, and maybe not playing your best poker because you just spent way too much time in the room?
So, did you hit your hours and you're just playing over that?
Yes.
I think that's a good reason to kind of. Well, okay, so I think there's a couple different types of poker players. The vast majority people just play for fun. So they're never hitting like a set hours. They're just, if they don't want to play anymore, they're just not going to play. And then you have players who kind of treat it as either a first job or a second job and are trying to hit a set amount of hours. I think once you hit that set amount, then unless you just happen to be on an amazing table with an amazing game, I think when you're doing poker, you just have to be flexible like that. But you should never do it to the point where you're just going to burn out, especially when you're using it as a second job.
Right. I just thought that was kind of interesting, wondering if you would ever kind of, whenever your card, for me, whenever I start hitting that kind of too many hours, kind of start getting too loose pre-flop, and just kind of realizing that maybe I've spent too much time playing this week. Kind of wondering if you had ever kind of felt that way, or do you do the same thing, loosening up pre-flop, or do you end up maybe calling too loose? Or
Yeah, I definitely can see. I think everybody does at a certain point. If you're playing, I will say this, a lot of times, like, I'll kind of have ranges that I'll do based on the table and what I'm doing. So I'm pretty good about sticking to those ranges, but it's pretty difficult. If you are just card dead and you are on, you're trying to get 15 hours a week and you're on hour 27, and this is on top of your first job, that can be very difficult to kind of stick and not play like any hand just to not be bored out of your skull if you've been folding for an hour and a half.
Well, and another thing is, whenever you're playing like that, whatever your hourly rate is, if you keep track of it or not, or you're a winning player or not, whatever hourly rate you think you are, you have to adjust to how you're playing, because if you're burnt out playing, your hourly rate isn't what you think it is. It isn't what you've been doing. If you're not playing at your normal level, it's going to go down.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. If you're, say, a $20 an hour player, if you're playing at your best, you're probably a $35 an hour player. And when you're playing at your worst, you're probably not even a profitable player. So
very easy not to be a profitable player in poker.
That's be a good way to bump up your win rate, is to play when you are playing just your best.
I just kind of thought that was kind of interesting, kind of something I kind of came across last week whenever I was kind of wondering what was going on. But a pretty interesting hand that I played actually this morning around 6 in the morning. I guess it was a little bit later or earlier than 6 in the morning. That's when we finished.
Been a long day for you.
It's been a very long day. So I was at 52 Social. We were playing 1-3. And we had just an absolute crazy guy who's making it 100 pre-flop, buying in, super deep stacked. And the table was very deep stacked. I bought in for 500 and missed a few flops, missed a few hands, probably made too light of calls. And I had been kind of grinded down. But I was, the game was playing very big at the time. They suggested the table wanted to bump it up to 5-5 if everyone agreed. And I didn't want to be the one person to say no. So with my $250, I said, this is going to be a tough 5-5 game, but I'm in.
Oh, God. Well, that's okay. You got 50 bigs. You can work with that.
So after I busted out, here's where the hand comes in.
Oh, okay.
So I rebought in for 500. So the problem is the super aggressive guy's on my left.
Okay.
So I really have to play pretty tight, but he's always raising. So I get dealt pocket queens in mid position.
Okay.
So somebody makes it 50 from early position, probably under the gun +1. The player to my direct right calls. I'm waiting for him to 3-bet because he 3-bets 80% of the time. He folds. So now this is kind of a disaster for me.
So you just call the 50.
Yes.
Okay.
I was counting on the crazy guy to 3-bet because he had made every hand 100 pre-flop. But I guess with the $50 raise...
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I was like, once there's a $50 raise, is he 3-betting a lot of raises of that size? 'Cause that's a 10 times the blind raise.
He is, though. But he
Okay.
folded. He had food or whatever. He wanted to get to that.
Okay.
So, and then a fourth player calls. So, this is kind of not ideal for me. The flop comes Queen, Jack, 4 with 2 hearts.
Well, that's an ideal flop.
Right? So, the first player to act makes it 215. What do you do here?
First player to act. So there's a player. There should be a player after him, right?
Yes.
What is that?
It went check. The player to my right made it 215. Right to me.
So we got the absolute nuts, but it's on a very wet board because we have 2 hearts. So any 9-10 to draw, any king 10 to draw. This is really a tough hand to kind of get value from. This is where it'd be so much better almost have pocket 4s here. Because now you have like ace kings, king queens, and stuff like that. I don't love it, but I think I have to raise here and guard against any potential draws. So we could have hearts. We could have a ton of open-ended straight draws. So there is a queen out there. Even like maybe king jack or jack 10, you never know, might continue with their pair backdoor draws. Maybe if they have a backdoor hearts and straight draw. I think I just got to raise here and hope I get value.
I ended up going all in for 450.
Oh, you have 450 behind?
Well, because I bought him for 500. So the $50,
That's right.
So it's 450. So it's kind of automatic for me at this point, right?
Oh yeah, I wasn't even factoring that stack size. With that stack size, it's just a snap jam.
So after that, the player behind me flat called, and then the early guy folded, and the guy who made it 215 called as well. Kind of right.
Your spot's not. Your spot's not that weird. I guess you want all this action because you have the nuts right here. You're scared of a lot of cards that are coming out. What was a turn?
Well, they ended up checking it through, but it was 2 low non-heart cards. I ended up taking it. I'm sure someone was on the guy who flat. I wonder if he had an overpair because he said that he had 2 pair, and in the middle of the session he told me that was the only hand I could have won with. So I thought that was very strange. But it ended up running out clean. I ended up taking the pot.
The only one who can ever have an overpair would be the earliest position. So no, you could not have. Because here's the thing: is somebody, if they have an overpair towards your queens, they're raising it pre-flop.
True, good point. So I guess I wonder what he had, but
I don't know what he could have had. I mean,
I guess if anything, it's Texas poker, and he could have had anything, right?
That's the thing is these games get so wild. It could be anything. It feels like a bunch of draws, but I mean, your third position, it's 50-50. You call. The player behind you can never have aces or kings because they're just raising it 100% of the time, I believe. Although you did call with queens, but you also had a guy to your left who's a maniac. That guy is closer to closing the action, so and definitely not trying to see a flop 4 ways with aces or kings. So, but yeah, that's a good hand. I mean, I will say this: that's kind of a easy hand to play to a degree, because once you flop the set and it's bet into, it's just a snap gem every time, and then what happens.
Right, but I just thought it was kind of an interesting hand that happened this week, so I thought I'd bring it to the podcast just as maybe one of our first hands that we talk about, but we'll have a few others, or we'll definitely have a lot of others.
Yeah, so. always definitely fun to kind of go over these hands and see what we might do differently or not do differently. So
I guess this concludes the first episode of the Texas Poker Podcast. I guess whatever you're listening to us on, maybe throw a like, a follow, come back next week, and we'll talk to you then.
That was the Texas Poker Podcast. Go ahead and rack up, add time, and we'll see you next week.